In recent years, poor people in Pennsylvania have not only seen cuts to the federal food stamp program, but also the elimination of state cash benefits, the program called General Assistance. If you are elected, would you support reinstating cash assistance? More generally, do you believe that the state's social safety net should be strengthened? And if so, what measures beyond Medicaid expansion and job creation would you take? Let's start with the Secretary. McGinty.
Very good. Thank you very much. I mean, this, too, is an effort that has been so wrong-headed. As a leader of a Commonwealth, you want to lift people up and give them the ability to prosper. And this has been exactly the opposite direction. Look, I think the federal cuts to food assistance were terribly wrong, and I would have opposed them. This does not come in isolation. The governor has followed other states now to try to close that gap that especially in very hard hit Pennsylvania, but it comes on top of the governor already cutting the state's food assistance. Those dollars need to be restored. It also comes atop this investigation into those who are trying to get a few bucks to put food on the table. 100,000 individuals have been adversely impacted by this requirement for more and more documents to get a couple bucks for food. That has promised to be reviewed, but it has not been reviewed and stopped. So families are hurting. I would stop and review and return to a place where we're helping people meet those basic needs. What else can we do? We absolutely need to strengthen that social safety net in the context of an economy that has been grudgingly and grindingly slow in taking off again and creating jobs. Pennsylvania is 4th in the country in the number of long-term unemployed. So job training, apprenticeships, job assistance, I would invest in people.
Thank you. Congresswoman Schwarts.
Sure. I was in the state Senate at the time when Governor Ridge wanted to cut, and did cut, people off of general assistance here in Pennsylvania. So this does go back a ways. It's been going on for a while. I oppose those cuts to what they consider able-bodied Pennsylvanians, and it hurt a lot of people. And it made it harder for them to be successful, to be able to help them during a time of crisis. I've stood up to support the long-term unemployment, the extension of long-term unemployment, to make sure that people could get back on their feet again. The fact is that we do need to help make sure that people can support themselves and their families, and that they have the support during tough times. And that is something that, again, the Republicans have taken on time and time again with very draconian cuts and efforts to cut and cut and cut again. And I fought back on those cuts. And so as governor, I will make sure that we do all that we can to not only help people when they are in crisis, but to also make sure that they have an opportunity for the job skills, for the support for their families, to make sure that their families and kids get the best chance they possibly can. I'm sure we'll talk about a variety of ways to do that. But I will also remind you that as the Commissioner of the Department of Human Services, I saw some of the families who were in the deepest crisis and keenly understood. And one of the reasons I ran for state Senate was that I knew that the decisions being made in Harrisburg did not help us, did not help us in Philadelphia, did not help those families. And as governors, I will take that understanding with me as governor to make sure that all of our families can succeed.
Thank you. Auditor General Wagner.
Within the welfare program, food assistance is as basic and as important as any program. And Allyson just referred to a piece of legislation, and both of us voted in a similar manner at the time. But as Auditor General, I've looked at a wide variety of programs within the welfare. And quite frankly, in some of those programs, fraud, waste, and abuse exist. But we never found that in the food assistance program. And so that program should be one in which we strongly support. We can actually save monies in certain programs if we do a good job managing it and provide more of those resources that we save into food assistance.
Thank you. Treasurer McCord.
The short answer is yes. Of course, I will restore general assistance for those who need it, and yeah, absolutely. And yet again, I find myself hitting two themes. The first is that this is really personal for me. My mom was born in 1930, went to college. Not many women did, let alone she went to Stanford. I never would have thought, looking back at that beginning, that she would ever suffer from economic insecurity, but she did. And that motivates me. I know that good, hardworking people often touch the edge of poverty. And it's important not to blame the victim here. And when we look at these issues, I mean, I was reading data recently produced by the University of Washington University, said 40% of Americans aged 25 to 60 will have 1 year in poverty. And the average kid in poverty doesn't spend years and years in poverty. But that year you spend in poverty can mark you for the rest of your life if you're not careful. Now let's go to how stupid it is. 99% of those dollars are spent back in the Pennsylvania economy. Most of the time you get you get the reimbursement from the federal government because it's people who qualify for Social Security with disability. And therefore you're speeding up the economic recovery, keeping the money here and creating jobs in the long run. I have more later on job creation. Thanks.
Great, thanks very much. I wanted to do a quick follow-up for Secretary McGinty and Auditor General. I didn't hear a precise answer on if you would reinstate general assistance.
I would.
Yes.
Thank you
Okay,
for
thank
coming
you.
back to